Hi everyone, hello! Welcome to Unfilmterd, the channel where I, your host Emma, breaks down movies in my own special way. Today we're taking a walk down memory lane and revisiting a childhood classic, Night at the Museum. I remember this movie as more of a cinematic fever dream rather than anything, but when rewatching this may have been the most overstimulating movie I've ever watched. Without further ado, let's get into it. For the opening credits, we get this almost foreshadowing of all of the characters that we're going to meet later on in the film, and I think it's really cool. Then we cut to the actual movie and we meet our main character Zoolander, and he's struggling a bit in Washington, D.C. Then we're introduced to his ex-wife who looks really familiar, but I can't put a finger on who she is. And then we're introduced to her new husband, Ant-Man. This cast is peak. It's now revealed post-divorce, Zoolander cannot get his life together. I'm going to start calling them by their real names now. His name is Larry. And we see that his ex-wife isn't too happy about that, and it's probably because they're doing 50-50 custody with their son, and since Larry doesn't really have it together, it's like, what are you doing when you're with the boy? Is the father-son bonding time dumpster diving? Question mark? But Larry is really a good dad. He's trying, but let's get it together. Larry is spending time with his son, going to his hockey game, and then after the game, there's this really tense conversation where his son basically reveals that mommy and mommy's cool new rich boyfriend literally say that you are a bum, and Zoolander reacts way more calmly than I would have in that situation. And then his son clocks his tea and says, well, Dad, maybe you should just get a real job and stop doing whatever it is you're doing because clearly that's not working. And Larry's just like, okay. To please the boy's wishes, Larry attempts to get a real job, and this interview, it's not going anywhere. He's basically explaining his past career that failed because he tried to invent something called the snapper, which is basically the clapper, but you snap. And it failed because apparently clapping's way more easier than snapping. Yeah. His interview lady really isn't budging, so she sends him a new job opportunity at, guess where? Can you guess? The museum! As soon as Larry walks in, the camera pans to this lady who we can immediately clock as his new love interest. But before they can really interact, we're interrupted by the museum boss guy, who's in this movie, I guess he's supposed to be portrayed as annoying and overly strict, but he's really just trying to handle some business, guys. Boss guy leads Larry to the security guy because the security guy is the one he's having the interview with because he is interviewing to be a security guard at the museum. And let me tell you, these security guys are so creepy. Spoiler alert, they are not good people. But when I first watched this as a child, the twist was so shocking to me, and it really shows how naive children are, because watching this movie again, I can immediately clock why do you look like that? Maybe I just have a phobia of old people, but I'm really uncomfortable. Also, there's a little one who's mean. Basically, Larry is sort of peer pressured into taking the job. I don't really know if he wants it. Yeah. It's then revealed that they're hiring a new position for the job because all three of the old guys got fired. Yes, there is three of them. I don't know if I mentioned that. And that's because they're downsizing the staff at the museum because no one wants to go to museums anymore. What? After Larry walks out, the other old guy is do you really think he's the one? And then the group leader of the old people is yeah. After this, Larry takes it upon himself to give himself a tour of the museum until alpha old guy scares the life out of him, except he doesn't react like it. But this prank, I'll show you, would have literally sent me into psychosis. I feel that was a pretty calm response. And in fact, for the entirety of this movie, Larry reacts way too calmly to things that should cause people to faint, to cry, to scream. And you know what? I strive to have that level of just nonchalantness in my life. Alpha old guy begins taking Larry on a tour of the museum, and it's really cool. We're seeing all the characters that we're later going to be introduced to until we see the monkey. This monkey's name is Dexter. Mark my words, he is evil, and not in a cute little silly side character way that this movie wants to pretend that it is. Why is he still here? Execute him. But we'll get into that later. Then they walk walk into the area of the Pharaoh. And basically the whole like shebang of this is to like really emphasize the Pharaoh and what he does. And the Pharaoh has this tablet, which is like very powerful, and that's really cool. Larry gets the job, and now it is his first night at the museum. I said the thing. Now, as soon as Larry gets in there, there's this montage of him being silly on the microphone. Well, I guess he got bored. Also, side note, I'm assuming that only the security guys knows that everything in this museum comes to life at night. But how did they get this job in the first place? Like, I've never heard of like a security guard being needed in a museum. And I guess it's like to protect like valuable items and stuff. But if that's the case, then just get like a super stacked out security system. Mind you, this movie was not made long ago. It was made in 2006. So I know they had the technology to do that back then. Like, how'd you get this job? I'm wondering. Anyways, everything's going pretty smoothly until Larry gets this eerie feeling. And there's this like big, huge statue of a dinosaur made out of bones in the museum. And he notices it's missing. And it's like, oh my goodness, how could you not notice that colossal statue was missing? He then goes looking for it. And then he sees the alive dinosaur bones and finally has his most reasonable reaction in this movie. And he is terrified and runs away in shock, but not very successfully. He hides under the reception desk, and instead of like calling emergency services or running away, he calls Cecil, main alpha old guy. Cecil then says that he's left a set of instructions for him to survive the night. So Larry uses those instructions and throws the dinosaur a bone to play fetch, and now it likes him. Great. These next scenes is basically everything coming to life in the museum at night. Guess it was a crazy night at the museum. Oh. Anyways, like a lot happens over this, I don't even know, minute or two? So let's speed run it. Larry meets the Easter Island head that calls him a dum-dum and is craving gum-gum. Attila the Hun and his goons chase Larry around, but he eventually gets away after almost decapitating Attila. He bumps into Lewis and Clark as well as Sacagawea and butchers her name horribly. When I watched this movie as a kid, I didn't understand or knew who they were, but now I took a push. And locks himself in a cage with animals attempting to escape a mammoth. Well, immediately after he reads the instructions to lock up the lions or else they'll eat him. But guess what? He is now trapped in the cage with these lions. This is a great night at the museum. He somehow escapes him again. You remember that evil monkey I told you about? That evil monkey. Oh my gosh. And you know, the movie will consistently try to portray this monkey as like this cute, mischievous, likable character. He's not. He is awful. This little trickster of a monkey tries to steal Larry's keys. Well, he does try to steal his keys. Wait, he does get his keys. Larry gets them back, and in return of getting his own keys back, the monkey bites him on his nose and pees on him for getting his own belongings back. But apparently, that wasn't enough. The monkey feels inclined to steal the instructions that Larry has, which is the only reason why he is still alive in this museum, and rip them to shreds in front of him to make his other monkey counterparts laugh. Now, in no way do I support animal cruelty, but I thought some things. And whatnot. Well, Larry's out of his predicament and somehow finds the energy to relax as if danger does not await him everywhere. Cool. After Larry gets temporarily lip paralyzed by mini bows, we're introduced to my two favorite characters in the entire Night at the Museum trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. We're introduced to a cowboy named Jedediah and a Roman emperor named Octavius, who are really tiny because they're like these little like tiny little wax figurines, and so they're attacking him with mini catapults and many other weapons. Jedediah then like tries tying him to train tracks and hitting him with a train, but it doesn't work because the train is so tiny and does not even budge. He then escapes Godzilla style, and guess who he's saved by? Teddy Roosevelt. So Ted is basically like the group leader of the museum. Everyone rocks with him and obeys him for whatever reason. Well, besides Jedediah, kind of, I don't really know. Larry basically asks him why what is happening. So Ted takes him to the Pharaoh's area, and Pharaoh is losing his mind inside of his tomb. Like, you know that one TikTok? Yeah, it's like that. So when they're explaining this, I don't really get it, but apparently Pharaoh's plate is the reason why they all all come to life at night. I don't know why. And Pharaoh wants his plate. Yeah. Ted also reveals to Larry that now that he's the security guard, it is his responsibility to keep everyone in the museum live and well, because if they leave the museum and the sun comes up, they turn into dust. And personally, if I was Larry and I have almost been killed by everything in this museum, why would I assume this role? Also, Teddy Roosevelt is in love with Sacagawea. Who wrote this? Larry tries venting to Teddy Roosevelt about his failed invention, and Teddy doesn't care. Anyways, sometime between in all of those things happening, Jedediah latched onto Larry, and then he begins confessing to Larry about being small makes him feel so sad and weak. Yeah. Then morning arrives, and everyone goes back to like wax. But also, I'm confused because when he's talking to Larry about how sad and weak he feels, and how he doesn't want to go back into the box, it's like, so, but if you go outside, you're gonna like die. But I guess they just want to roam free in the museum, but it's like, y'all don't get bored of that? Maybe I'm just thinking too deep about it. Anyways, the guys come in, the old guys, I mean, and Larry's like, whoa, guys. I'm traumatized now. You guys didn't tell me like any of this was gonna happen. And the whole security guys are like gaslighting him, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. You signed up for this. Like, well, whoop-de-doo. Now imagine you're leaving your shift and it's like the worst night shift ever. Like, we're talking like FNAF level traumatic experiences. You almost died like 20 times. You're terrified out of your mind. You probably don't even know what's real and what's fake at this point. And your ex-wife's boyfriend, Ant-Man, comes to your establishment that you have just now been scarred from with your son showing him your new job that you now hate. The guy's grinning from ear to ear doing this, mind you. Like, he has no remorse for the pure fear and horror in Zoolander's eyes right now. But apparently, you know, they just wanted to swing by Larry's new job and just see what all the hype's about, you know what I mean? And apparently Larry's son thinks that his job's really cool. So, instead of quitting like he already intended on doing, and like what any other sane person would do, he goes back into the museum and he's like, you know what, keep the job, I guess. Because my son thinks it's whatever. But immediately upon trying to get his job back, his manager's like, hey, what is this? And he shows him like Jedediah and Octavius, like their little set. It's like all messed up because Jedediah is like putting Octavius in this torture chamber. And that is not what the museum wants to present. And Larry's like explaining what happened to the boss guy perfectly. And the boss guy's like, oh, you think you're funny, don't you? You think you're funny. He's British, by the way. So Larry is on absolute thin ice. And now we see receptionist love interest lady from earlier, and she's taking these kids on a field trip around the African mammal the African mammal section of the museum. And she goes to the monkey. Yeah, that evil, awful, terrible monkey that I told you about earlier. And she's like on a field trip, like showing these kids like all the animals in this museum, and Larry's just like creepily following behind them. And when she gets to like explaining like the nature of the monkey, like, oh, it's so loving and caring, Larry lets out a little laugh and she like looks at him weird. And even though like I'd laugh too, because loving and caring is not in any of the characteristics of Dexter, why are you following us around though? For some reason, Larry cannot read social cues, and after this humiliation, he continues to follow around the field trip group. And then he asks her about Sacagawea, and he asks her if Sacagawea is deaf, because earlier in the movie he was trying to talk to Sacagawea through her like glass box exhibit, and she couldn't hear him because she's in a glass box. But Larry just can't put two and two together and thinks that Sacagawea is deaf. Love interest lady later clarifies that Sacagawea is not deaf. This is so awkward that it gets to the point that the love interest lady has to confront him and be like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just trying to learn a little more about history. And she's like, okay, hun, well, this isn't the way to do it. Like, I'm gonna call the police. She doesn't say that, but that's what I've read by her face. Then it cuts that somehow he bagged that, I guess. Well, they're not together, but she's allowing herself to interact with him. And they got coffee, and now they're talking about history and whatnot, and it's really cute. Aww. So because of this, Larry decides to brush up on his history and learn a few things. And not gonna lie, based on Larry's actions and reactions through this movie, I did not know that he could read. So Larry's like hustling on the books, like he's locked in. And mind you, he's doing all this to impress his son, who literally said that he'd be cool, like, if he got a regular guy job, and now he's doing security for, like, FNAF ruins. Like, you could be something normal. Like, you could work in a cubicle, like, for the love of the game, I guess. I don't know. It is now Larry's second night at the museum, and he bumps into the old security guards again. And one of the security guards, before they, like, leave, finally, is like, wait, guys, I need a moment, you know, so many memories. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll give you the space you need. But then, as soon as they leave, he's being a little sus. He pulls up, like, this key copier to copy the keys to the museum, and it's like, why do you need that if you don't work here? But anyways, Larry's shift is going pretty smoothly after this, which is crazy for his, like, second night at the job, and with only, like, 48 hours to retain information on how to survive this job that he literally does not have to have. But, you know, for the love of the game, I guess. And he shows us how skilled he is by numerous examples. Like, he gives the Easter Island head some gum so it's happy, and he also gives the cavemen fire. Surely that cannot go wrong. Anyways, now there's this conflict where Jedediah and Octavius are, like, having this argument, and they basically explain, like, we're men, that's all we do is fight. And yeah, but Larry is not standing for this nonsense. He is standing on security guard business. So he tries telling them, like, guys get along. And there's this bit in the movie where Jedediah, like, constantly, like, refers to Larry as a giant, and Larry's like, I'm not big, you're really small. And Jedediah calls Larry Gigantor, and I think it's funny. Now, Dexter's back, and he tries to steal Larry's keys again, but it doesn't work because Larry is not playing with y'all. Larry is trained, and guess what? Instead of grabbing the real keys, Dexter grabs some baby keys because he's a little baby. And Larry says that to him, and Dexter does not like that. Larry bumps back into Teddy Roosevelt, who he caught making goo eyes at Sacagawea again, who wrote this. For some reason, Teddy Roosevelt is, like, shy, and he gets nervous on the guys. Don't know if this is historically accurate. And, like, he goes to talk to Sacagawea, and it's so, like, weird. Like, he goes, and she, like, smiles, and he, like, shuffles away awkwardly, and it's like, okay, you could have stayed over there, I guess. After that, Larry bumps into the Huns and Attila, who immediately want to slime him. Like, oh my gosh, like, they just, like, sniff his presence in the air and want to kill him. But Larry read that Attila and the Huns like magic or something, so he shows them magic and they're jolly for, like, 2 seconds until they reveal that magic is fake and Larry is a fraud, and that makes them really, 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 really angry. And so they're like, wow, you're a traitor, and they try to execute him. And their way of executing him is like, do you know that scene in Fantastic Four and they're stretching Reed Richards? Like, they're trying to stretch this normal man apart, but it's only for, like, 3 seconds because this is a kid's movie. Larry escapes them because an elephant scares them away, but somehow this evil monkey got a hold of Larry's keys. Like, okay, so now everything's a mess. Like, he had it under control, like, for the first maybe 2 minutes of his shift, and now everything's just going to poop. The animals are running everywhere, exhibits are fighting, there's a lot happening, there's a war between Jedediah and Octavius. Like, I don't know how he's gonna get himself out of this one, but you already know Larry's the guy you need when I don't even know how to describe this occurrence. Remember how I said surely nothing bad could happen from giving the cavemen fire? So He finds the cavemen, and Larry's just getting, like, rage baited this entire movie, because after saving the cavemen with the fire extinguisher, they, like, throw the foam at his face and cackle at him. Like, hello? Then Dexter adds fuel to the fire, not literally, by jingling the keys in his face and laughing at him. This poor man. Now, I know I've been hating on Dexter this entire movie, but this is my problem with him, okay? Like, I could understand that if he was just a cute little mischievous monkey, because that's in their character. What he does now comes nothing but from the evil and darkness in his soul. Dexter had earlier opened a window, and guess what? One of those cavemen, because they are dumb, like, goes through the window and ends up outside, but they can't go outside, and it's reaching the end of his shift, so the sun's gonna come up, but he's outside and the caveman dies. Like, Larry notices that the window is open and sees him out there and tries to save him, but there is nothing that he can do, and he literally turns into dust Infinity War style right before his eyes, and then gets like hit with a car that like sweeps him off into the road. Dexter, why did you do that? Like, there's literally no reason for, like, this is not mischievous, this is murder. And after literally seeing someone pass away, well, I guess it was like a wax figurine, but at the same time still, Larry's like, I cannot do this anymore, and I don't blame him. But Teddy Roosevelt wants to be all inspiring and is like, no, Larry, you're our hero. You're our hero. And for some reason, the caveman's death inspires Larry to like keep the museum running and stay there because he doesn't want other people to get hurt, I guess, and it's his job to save them. Like, mind you, Dexter feels no remorse for this. Like, throughout, like, he shows no guilt of doing this. I'm gonna calm down. The next morning, Larry's son visits his dad with his friends at the museum, and they're like, wow, I haven't been to the museum since I was a baby. This is a stupid baby place. And Larry's son's like, nah, guys, trust. This is where the functions are at. This is gonna be lit. But as soon as they walk in, Larry is humiliated once again in front of his son this time because the boss guy basically fires him because the museum is a mess after last night. But his son doesn't see the whole interaction because Larry pleads for his job back and gets it somehow. And basically Larry's son is like, wow, my dad's a loser and now he embarrassed me in front of my friends. So he's pretty sad. Larry then goes to visit his son, and his ex-wife's like, Larry, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you mean, what am I doing? And she's like, can you like stop disappointing our son by literally just failing at everything in life? And a little harsh, but you know. And he's like, no, trust, like, I'm not gonna disappoint him again. Like, in his mind, he's like, I'm gonna show him all the things coming back to life in the museum and he won't be disappointed. Great plan, Lair Bear. Then he brings his son into the museum and like tells him to like hide in like one of the offices, so at night his son can be there and see all of the cool things happening. He then goes to the receptionist lady and sees her staring at Sacagawea, and he's like, hey, what's this about? And she tells him that she is like writing this like paper or something on Sacagawea, and she just cannot find out who she really is. And in the moment, Larry's like, okay, that's cool, but can you leave? And she's like, oh, okay. But as she's like walking towards the door, he's like, hey, you know, like about your paper, I know like you can't really like get through to her, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I can really get through to her. And she's like, what? Really? How? And he's like, I'm going to talk to her because she comes alive at night. And he keeps going like on and on and on like about the museum and whatnot and all of its beholdings. And even though what he's saying is true, she gets offended. Like, instead of being like, oh my gosh, this guy is crazy and I should probably leave, she thinks that Larry is making fun of her. And it's like, how? Okay. She's then like really sad, and Larry has like this pathetic like attempt of reassuring her. It's like, Rebecca, no, oh well, I guess I tried. And you know like how the whole point of like this shift is like to not disappoint his son, right? Like, so it's clock strikes 12 and he's like waiting for the things to come alive, and he's like trying to encourage them to come alive, and like his son's like, dad, stop, this is embarrassing. Like, this is literally just like an hour and however long of Zoolander just losing aura over and over and over again. Like, his little boo thing thinks he's a mean, terrible person. His son probably thinks he's schizophrenic. Ex-wife and her new boyfriend thinks he's a bum. Like, literally everything that can go wrong goes wrong to this man. While Larry's like tweaking out, his son sees some rummaging outside the window, so him and father go to explore it. And then it's revealed that it's the old security guys. And guess what? As I suspected, as the shiver of nervousness trickled down my spine after he did that criminally unfunny prank, they are here to do bad things. These bad things are stealing the tablet of the Pharaoh, as well as attempted kidnapping. Like, I genuinely don't know what they were going to do with Larry's son. They say that they want to keep the tablet because, like, everything else comes alive at night, including them. And since they're old, the tablet makes them feel life again. It makes them feel younger and more, like, energized. And they don't want to lose that. And I mean, okay. But Nikki somehow gets a hold of the tablet, and the old guy's like, put that down. because like the tablet hasn't been activated yet, and that's why all of the things in the museum weren't turning on. But Larry is like, no, son, turn it on and I'll show you what I meant to show you when you were coming here. And he obviously listens to his dad and flips it, and like things start glowing and things starts changing, and it's like, whoa. Larry's son runs, and old guy tries to run after him, but Larry gets him. And after this, I had hope for Larry to beat up an old man. 3 might be kind of hard, but they genuinely just like mollywop him. Like, this is bad. Like, oh my gosh. Then they tell Larry that basically if you stop us, we're gonna frame you for robbing the museum and you are gonna go to jail. So you better not try and stop us. But Larry is scared of nothing. So you know what? He gets off the ground after getting like, oof, that was bad. He gets up and chases after him because you're not getting my son. Fortunately, Larry and his son get locked into the Pharaoh room by this old security guys. But there's like a gate outside the Pharaoh room, and Larry's trying to talk to Teddy Roosevelt through the gate, but he has like okay, so Teddy's like giving him like this speech about like how he's self-aware that he's a mannequin and that he's not a hero and that he doesn't know what to do. So does that mean that every mannequin in this movie is like self-conscious? So does it mean like everyone's just like acting? But like I don't think Attila and the Huns were acting when they were like trying to kill him. But if they were acting and what? Like, I thought that they were historical. Well, I guess that wouldn't make sense because it's like they're at their peak in here. But I don't know. But anyways, Larry's like, can you help me out? And Teddy Roosevelt responds with,
relax, Larry. What are you made of?
Okay. Anyways, you remember how the Pharaoh's like tweaking all the time? The Pharaoh's guards are like basically about to kill Larry and his son at this point. But Larry has the brilliant idea of trying to break free the Pharaoh from his tomb. And he does so, and he's like, hey, can you please tell your guards to like not slime me, please, and thank you. And he stops them. And like as soon as the Pharaoh gets up and he's this beautiful, beautiful man. He's like, hey, so where's my plate thingy? And Larry's about like you're gonna hate me, but we don't have it. Also, the Pharaoh is British and went to Cambridge University. Okay. But Pharaoh's strong. He breaks them free by throwing like this brick thingy at the cage, and that busted open. They escape, but whoa, not so fast. Attila and the Huns try to slime them for I think the 15th time in this film. But Larry really isn't in the mood right now, and he matches their energy and screams gibberish at them. And it works for a second, but it's really Pharaoh's fault for like them being saved because he communicates with them in their language. And it results in a peace treaty after a therapy session between them and Larry. Attila cries and Larry sings him a lullaby. Basically, the museum is in chaos, but what else is new? And Larry loses his aura for like the 500th time in this movie because he's trying to get all of the museum creatures' attention and they're not listening. So dumb Easter Island head has to like make them be quiet for them. Okay. It's like when your class is being bad and then they have to call another teacher into your class to make you guys be better. Yeah. Larry then gives them this like inspiring speech that should like help rile them up to defeat the old guys. But I don't really know like why they listen to him, especially since they've been trying to kill him for like the entirety of this movie. But I guess they just want to come alive at night. So it's like, sure, we'll do whatever you say. Okay, we're kind of getting into the final stretch of the film. Jedediah and Octavius are now going on this like solo mission that Larry sent them on to go track down the old guy with the car. And by doing this, they're like trying to like pop a tire in their escape vehicles so they don't get away. And for them it looks really intense because they're so tiny, but for us it just looks like the tires going flat. But instead the main old guy escapes via horse. Okay, and this horse just comes like rushing in, and Teddy Roosevelt has to save Sacagawea from getting hit, and she's like, oh my gosh, Teddy, you saved me. And he's like in love with her again. Who wrote this? So now there's like this chase scene on horses, and and they're trying to get to the main alpha evil old security guy, and he's riding on something called a wartime horse, and those horses only stop when they hear a secret word. But since Larry read up on his history books, he knows the secret word is Dakota, so he says Dakota and the horses stop and fling the old guy off. Larry turns him in to Attila and the Huns, and Attila basically asks like, hey, can we kill this guy? And Larry's like, just a little bit. Now we're back at the museum. Jedediah and Octavius have their dramatic entrance back in from doing whatever they were doing. I forgot. Larry gets rage baited by Dexter again. What else is new? Then some time passes, and then we get to the next day of Larry, and he's in his boss's office. And there's all this stuff on the news, like there was dinosaur prints outside. We saw footage of cavemen on top of the building, and the news outlet is like, this is too crazy to be real. Like, this is just really great promotion from the Smithsonian Museum. And the boss is like, this is a mess. Like, he doesn't even say anything. He's like, just give me your badge and your flashlight. And Larry's presumably fired. But they step outside of his office and they see that the museum is packed. People are finally coming back to the museum again because of this great quote unquote promotion. Without saying a word, the boss is like, you know what? You can have your job back. Now it is the finale, and it cuts to Larry's next night shift, and it's a whole dance party going on like how any other 2000s family movie ends. Teddy Roosevelt bags Sacagawea. They're riding on his horse together, and Larry's son is riding on that big dinosaur that is being led by Jedediah and Octavius to run around and play. And you know how like Larry spent this entirety of the movie trying to keep his son in his life, but now his son's life is literally on the line on top of a dinosaur. But that does not bother Larry. Whatever, I guess the movie's fictional. Well, that was Night at the Museum in all of its glory. This film I really enjoyed rewatching, and even despite the fact it seemed to me a lot was happening with no in-betweens the majority of the film, it kept me engaged and wanting more. I can see why a lot of people hold this movie dear to their childhood, as it is a really good family movie that I'd recommend all of you guys to watch yourselves, even though I probably just spoiled the whole thing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and please let me know any other recommendations you have for me to watch. Bye-bye!